There's a country where the average household is sitting on a small fortune in cold, hard cash. Not stocks, not crypto, cash and bank deposits. As of the end of 2025, Japanese households were holding roughly 140 trillion yen in cash and deposits, close to half of all the financial assets they own. And most of the people holding that money don't look wealthy. They're not driving new cars. They're not wearing anything with a logo on it. They just quietly have money. That's the thing about Japanese money culture that catches Americans off guard. The wealth is there. You just can't see it, because it was never meant to be seen. So today I want to walk you through 10 money habits that are deeply normal in Japan and almost invisible in America. Some of them are hundreds of years old. A couple you could start tonight. None of them require a raise, a side hustle, or a spreadsheet with 12 tabs. And by the end, I think you'll notice they all share one quiet idea underneath, an idea that runs almost exactly opposite to how money works here. Let's start with the one that has a name. Number 1, Kakeibo, the handwritten money journal. Back in 1904, a journalist named Hani Motoko, Japan's first female journalist, published a household budgeting system in a women's magazine. She called it Kakeibo, which roughly means household ledger. And it's still sold in Japanese bookstores today, more than 120 years later, usually as a fresh notebook at the start of each new year. Here's what makes it different from a budgeting app. You do it by hand, pen, paper, on purpose. At the start of the month, you write down what's coming in and what you have to pay no matter what. Rent, utilities, the fixed stuff. You decide how much you want to save, and you set that aside first before you start assigning money to anything fun. Then all month, you write down what you spend, and at the end, you sit with 4 simple questions. How much money did I have? How much did I save? How much did I actually spend? And how can I do better next month? That's it. There's no automation, no sync, no little confetti animation when you hit a goal. And that sounds almost too simple to matter, but here's what most people miss. The whole point is the friction. When you have to physically stop and write down that you spent $11 on lunch, you feel it in a way that a card tap never lets you feel. People who stick with Kakeibo often say they cut their spending noticeably in the first few months. Some promoters claim as much as a third. And while I'd take that exact number with a grain of salt, the direction is real. Writing it down makes it hard to lie to yourself. You don't need the official notebook. A cheap journal and 10 minutes on a Sunday will do it. Number 2, the 500 yen coin habit. This one is almost a national pastime. In Japan, there's a 500 yen coin worth a little over $3. And there's a widespread little ritual where, at the end of the day, if you've got a 500 yen coin in your pocket, you don't spend it. You drop it in a jar at home. Every single one. No exceptions. That's the whole system. And it works because it takes the decision away from you. You're not deciding whether to save today based on how motivated you feel. There's a rule, the rule is automatic, and the jar fills up on its own. The American version is easy. Pick a denomination you decide never to spend. Say every $5 bill that lands in your wallet goes straight into an envelope at home and doesn't come back out. Or automate it digitally. Every time you tap your card, round up to the nearest dollar and sweep the change into savings. Same principle. You remove willpower from the equation and replace it with a rule that runs whether you're in the mood or not. The magic isn't the amount, it's that you never have to decide twice. Number 3, mottainai, the feeling that waste is a small tragedy. There's a word Japanese kids grow up hearing, mottainai. It's hard to translate cleanly, but it's the feeling of regret you get when something useful is thrown away or wasted. Not guilt exactly, more like a small pang. What a waste. You'll hear it when someone leaves food on their plate, when a still good jacket gets tossed, when the lights are left on in an empty room. It's not a budgeting rule, it's an instinct. And that instinct quietly saves people enormous amounts of money over a lifetime because it changes the default from replace it to use it up. Think about how that plays out here versus there. In America, when something breaks or gets a little old, the reflex is to buy a new one. It's often cheaper and easier to replace than repair. Mottainai flips that. You finish the leftovers instead of ordering out again. You get the shoes resold instead of buying new ones. You use the thing you already paid for until it's genuinely done. You don't have to turn this into a moral crusade. Just try noticing the pang. That flicker of, this is a waste, is worth listening to because it's usually pointing straight at money leaking out the back door. Number 4, spending cash you can actually feel. Here's a statistic that surprises a lot of Americans. In Japan, credit card debt in the revolving, carry a balance and pay interest sense is remarkably rare. A huge share of cards are simply set to pay off in full automatically every month. The idea of carrying a balance and paying 20+% interest on last month's dinner is culturally kind of alien. Part of that is that a lot of everyday spending has traditionally happened in cash. And cash does something to your brain that a card doesn't. When you hand over 3 physical bills for lunch, you register the loss. When you tap a card, you don't. The pain gets postponed to a statement you'll skim 3 weeks later. Now, I'm not going to tell you to go all cash in 2026. Cards have real benefits, and rewards are legitimately worth something if you pay in full. But here's the middle path a lot of people miss. Use cash, or a debit-style envelope, for the categories where you tend to overspend. Groceries, eating out, random Target runs. Keep the card for fixed bills you'd never impulse inflate. Let yourself feel the money leave in exactly the places you tend to lose control. The goal isn't to punish yourself, it's to put the pain back where it belongs, at the moment of spending, not weeks later. Number 5. Shun. Eating with the season. There's a concept in Japanese food culture called shun, the idea that every ingredient has a moment when it's at its peak. It's cheapest, it's freshest, it's best, and you build your meals around what's in season right now. This isn't framed as a money trick. It's framed as eating well. But it happens to be one of the most reliable ways to eat beautifully and cheaply at the same time, because in-season produce is abundant, which means it's cheap, which means the smart move and the frugal move are the same move. The American version doesn't require you to learn Japanese cooking. It just means letting the price tags and the season guide your cart instead of a rigid recipe. Strawberries in June, not January. Squash and root vegetables in the fall. Buy what's plentiful, cook most of your meals at home, and let the calendar do your menu planning. Home cooking is already one of the biggest levers most households have. The average American spends thousands of dollars a year on food away from home. Seasonal cooking just makes the home version cheaper and better at the same time. Number 6. Buy less but buy well, then keep it forever. There's a mindset in Japan that runs against the American instinct to own a lot of cheap versions of everything. Instead, own fewer things, choose them carefully, and maintain them so they last. You see it in the culture of taking care of your possessions. A good knife gets sharpened for decades. A quality umbrella gets repaired, not replaced. There's genuine respect for a thing that's built to last and cared for so it does. Now this one comes with a real catch, so let me be honest about it. Buy it for life only saves money if you actually keep the thing. Spending $400 on boots is not automatically wiser than spending $80. It's only wiser if those boots outlast 5 pairs of the cheap ones and you don't get bored and buy new ones anyway. The trap is using quality as a permission slip to spend more. So the real habit here isn't buy expensive. It's buy deliberately, then commit. Fewer decisions, made more carefully, held onto longer. That's the version that actually builds wealth, because the cheapest thing you own is usually the thing you already have and don't need to replace. Number 7. Danshari. Owning less on purpose. Danshari is a decluttering philosophy. The characters roughly mean refuse, dispose, separate. Refuse what you don't need coming in, let go of what you're not using, and separate yourself from the urge to accumulate. It got popular worldwide through Japanese minimalism, but at its core, it's a money habit wearing a tidiness costume. Here's why. Clutter isn't just stuff. Clutter is money that already left, frozen in a form you can't use. Every unused thing in your closet is a receipt. And the deeper effect is on the future. When you get used to living with less, you simply want less. And wanting less is the single most powerful thing that can happen to a budget, because it works on every category at once, and it never wears off. A simple starting rule a lot of people use: one in, one out. Something new comes in, something old goes out. It quietly caps your accumulation, and more importantly, it makes you pause before buying, because now every purchase has a cost you can see. Something else has to go. Number 8. Quiet money, not showing it. This is the one that ties the opening together. In Japan, broadly speaking, there's a cultural discomfort with flaunting wealth. Loud displays of money can read as showing off, and showing off can read as disrupting the harmony of the group. So a lot of well-off people simply don't broadcast it. I want to be careful here, because this is a generalization and plenty of individuals break it. But the tendency is real, and the financial consequence is enormous. Because in America, we've built almost the opposite instinct. Here, wealth is something you're kind of expected to display: the car, the watch, the house, the vacation photos. And that creates a brutal trap where a huge amount of money gets spent not on the thing itself, but on the signal it sends to other people. Here's the part worth sitting with. When you don't feel the pressure to look rich, being rich gets dramatically easier. Every dollar you're not spending on the performance of wealth is a dollar that can quietly become actual wealth. That's the whole secret behind the person who doesn't look like they have money and has it anyway. They opted out of the performance. You don't have to move to another country to do that. You just have to notice how much of your spending is aimed at an audience and how little that audience actually cares. Number 9, the just-in-case fund. Remember that giant pile of cash we started with? Here's part of why it exists. When you ask Japanese households why they save, the top answers are strikingly consistent: to be ready for old age and to be ready for the unexpected: illness, disaster, hard times. It's precautionary. The saving isn't aimed at getting rich. It's aimed at not being caught off guard. And there's something almost radical in that framing for an American audience, because so much of our money conversation is about growth, returns, upside, the next big thing. The Japanese instinct puts security first. Build the cushion, then worry about the rest. Now, I'll give you the honest financial nuance. Holding almost half your assets in cash, the way Japanese households do, is not optimal on paper. Over long stretches, cash loses to inflation, and money sitting idle isn't working for you. So this isn't a blanket keep everything in cash recommendation. But the underlying instinct, build a real emergency fund before you chase returns, is exactly backwards from how a lot of Americans do it, and it's the safer foundation. 3 to 6 months of expenses in an account you don't touch means the next emergency is an inconvenience instead of a catastrophe. You can't build wealth on a foundation that collapses every time life surprises you. Number 10, kaizen. Getting 1% better. Kaizen is a Japanese idea that got famous in factories, but it belongs in your budget. It means continuous improvement, tiny, relentless, unglamorous improvements made over and over instead of one dramatic overhaul. And this is the perfect note to end on, because it's the opposite of how most people try to fix their money. We wait for January. We make a huge heroic resolution to overhaul everything at once, and we burn out by February because nobody can sustain a total transformation on willpower alone. Kaizen says, don't overhaul, improve by an inch. Cancel one subscription this month. Cook one more dinner at home this week. Move your savings up by $25, not $200, $25, an amount so small you won't feel it. Then next month, do the next small thing. You're not trying to fix your finances in a weekend. You're trying to be slightly better than last month, forever. That's the engine underneath the Kakeibo notebook, by the way. Those 4 questions at the end of the month aren't about judgment. They're about one small adjustment. Over years, small adjustments compound into a completely different life, and you barely felt it happen. So here's what I want you to notice about all 10 of these. Not one of them is about making more money. There's no hustle here, no investment secret, no trick to beat the market. Every single one is about friction, attention, and modesty. Slowing the money down so you feel it leave, paying attention to waste instead of ignoring it, and quietly refusing to spend on looking rich so you can actually be rich. That's why the wealth is invisible. It's not hidden in some clever account. It's hidden in all the money that never got spent on the performance, the new car nobody needed, the meals nobody finished, the stuff nobody kept, the interest nobody had to pay. Quiet wealth isn't quiet because it's secret. It's quiet because nothing dramatic ever happened to build it. Just a jar of coins, a notebook on a Sunday, and 100 small choices nobody ever saw, and any one of them you could start tonight.